Hello and welcome to the official Scottish Rugby podcast coming to you from BT Murrayfield. I'm Jamie McMillan, and with me as always we have Al Kellock, Chris Paterson and Lindsey Smith, plus our very special studio guest, Stuart McInally. On this week's podcast, Stuart reflects on the match with Ireland, his transition from back row to hooker, his love of flying, and much more. Stuart McInally, welcome to the studio. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
How's the body after the weekend?
No, it's fine. It's still a bit sore. It's only a couple of days out, but no injuries or anything. So nice to have a few days now just to relax and refresh a bit before we're back into training later in the week.
Stuart or Rambo? What do you prefer?
We'll go with Stuart today.
Stuart,
yeah. Keep it official.
I'll never remember that. I'm going to be calling him Rambo the whole show.
I won't respond.
Where's just on that, the name Rambo? Where'd that come from?
It sort of followed me from school, which is strange because I was the only one from my school that went and did any age grade stuff or anything like that. But it was an old school coach who thought it'd be funny to call me Rambo for a session because my surname was McInally. There was a footballer called Alan McInally who was known as Rambo, and he thought it'd be hilarious for one session to call me it, and it just sort of stuck, followed me wherever I went, and yeah, here I am, more than 10 years later, still being called Rambo.
Could have been worse, though. It's not bad.
I was thinking that. I need to come up with a better story than that.
So nothing to do with the fact you look a little bit like Sylvester Stallone?
No, well, we've got the similar body types actually, but apart from that, no correlation.
Well, thanks for coming along, Stuart. Let's just look back at the game. Obviously, a disappointing result of the weekend. You've had a bit of time to digest that game. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, the more I sort of think about it, the more disappointed I am in terms of sort of more how we played. I thought Ireland were very good and they defended really well, exactly as we expected them to. They're the second best team in the world, and they're really tough to break down. They've got such a good defence, but I feel we just made it too easy for them on a number of occasions. We just weren't accurate enough in our attack, and it's an area we really pride ourselves on. And I think that's going to be one of the most disappointing things, is that just a few errors crept into our game which were a bit uncharacteristic. So we'll just have to work hard and get better for Paris.
Frustrating game. You could sense with players afterwards that they were, the way Ireland played, they starve you of the ball, and like Scotland players coming up after the game seemed more frustrated than anything else.
Yeah, no, it was. They look after the ball so well, and it's a trait of Leinster and Munster and all the Irish teams. Really, they don't do anything too flash, but what they do exceptionally well, and it's really hard to get the ball back off them when they do that. And then we maybe gave away a penalty or something, and it just allowed them to keep the scoreboard ticking or to get the lineouts to launch their attacks from. It was hugely frustrating. You're right.
We'll talk about it a bit later. It was exactly the same as the women's game on the Friday night. Lindsey, the Irish kept the hold of the ball for about 60-70% of the game.
Yeah, I think like the first 10 minutes the possession stats were sitting at 79% in favour of Ireland, and if you've not got the ball there's not too much you can do without it. So yeah, I think pretty similar story in the women's game.
I think Ireland have to add to their game though. I mean, they're second in the world. I think they've played at an incredible level for the last 18-24 months, but I think they have to add a wee bit more than just retaining possession and grinding out results. I think the first half, to be honest, I think they missed 2 or 3 opportunities to go a bit wide. I think because they retained possession so well, we got a little bit narrow in defence. And yeah, I don't know, looking ahead probably at the World Cup for them, and obviously for us as well as the first game, I think they will keep an eye on how they progress and how they change, because I think they probably will have to add a wee bit more attacking. They've got the players to do it.
I thought he stripped a bit back. I mean, sure, you would have looked at them in detail from the autumn as well. They stripped a bit back for me, I think, based on the fact that they'd been beaten the week before.
Yeah.
So they came and they almost just did enough, and that's them going back to what they know, which is controlling the ball, hitting 1 or 2 out, and just making it almost impossible to get the turnover.
Yeah, no, we watched a lot of that game against England, and you're right, they did struggle, and you could tell it rattled them a bit. Even we went 3 points up early on, and you could see, they were the ones that had to come out here and put a performance in, and yeah, you're right. Just on your point, Mossy, I think what they do have as well is they've got such good set piece attack, and Joe Schmidt's known as a very, very clever coach, and we spent a lot of time analysing their line out attack, and they still managed to catch us on one of their tries as well. So if they can add to their game, they're going to be extremely dangerous.
I think you're right, Al, but I think that change was more evident at the start of the second half than I think because we started so well, they couldn't get their line speed in defence. We were moving the ball really quickly. I thought that the first 3 or 4 minutes, outstanding start from Scotland. I thought that the start of the second half, it looked as if Ireland had been told, listen, make it more physical, make it slower. And I really enjoyed the first half. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a great advert. It wasn't perfect, but I think that actually helped it be really entertaining. There were mistakes, there were there's unfortunate 1 or 2 injuries as well, but it kind of loosened the game up. And then the start of the second half, I think exactly what you were saying, what we expected from Ireland was more evident in the second 40 than the first 40.
Was that conditions out there? I mean, the wind, although when you were outside the stadium it was fierce, when you were inside the stadium it didn't seem as bad, but did it affect the play?
Not as much as I thought. When we were boarding the team bus outside the hotel, it started hosing it down with rain, and then you could see the leaves in the car park swirling, so we're like, crikey, we're in for a hell of a day here. But in the stadium it's always quite sheltered here, and the wind wasn't too big a factor actually. But yeah, you're right, they played off 9 a lot. Some of the tackle stats from the forwards were extremely high, both second rows together. I think they had about 50 tackles. So yeah, the way they were playing was evident. They tried to be physical and run off 9. I thought for the majority of the game we defended really well, and it was just disappointing that we conceded the tries we did.
It's only hookers and goal kickers that notice the leaves swirling in the car park when you board the team bus.
It's so true.
The other boys are oblivious to what's going on.
Tell you what, second row point of view, you stand out there and the wind comes across you, it feels as if it's hit you in the face. It comes out the back of the stand, it comes back and hits you in the back of the head at the same time. You've got no idea what's going to happen.
That's because you were facing the wrong way.
What, talk us through the mood at half time, because to Chris's point, the performance in the first half was good. It was a close game. I suppose it would have been a bit of disappointment not to score in the last 5 minutes. But you must have been optimistic when you were in at half time, and then a few mistakes crept in the second half.
Yeah, we had loads of energy at half time. Even we had that spell of play, we camped in their line. They defended so well, and we just couldn't seem to get over the gain line. But yeah, even at half time, didn't feel we played that well. We hadn't taken our opportunities that were presented to us, but we were down 12-10 I think, so we were still really very much in the game. And there's a massive amount of confidence at half time to go out and win the game, and that was what was probably most disappointing at the full time was having not done that.
Yeah, your point, Al, at half time it was 10-12, so it's a 2-point game. There was a number of key moments in that game as well. Hoggy going off in the first half, and Sexton as well. Just on Sexton, we touched on it earlier, but to get your guys' take on it, the way that he plays the game, there was a bit of talk about him being targeted and all that, but the way that he plays at 10, he will take the ball straight up to the line, release that ball, give those inside passes. Mossy, we touched on it, just elaborate, but the way that he plays the game is quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a naturally aggressive individual as well, and the way he plays is confrontational, which brings that personality through in the way he plays, but he's a brave player. I don't believe, I said it in commentary at the weekend, I don't believe any of the tackles that he was hit with were late particularly. He'd had the ball away, but he'd committed to defender. Paul O'Connell said it at half time as well. He actually eyeballs you as an opposite player. You can't leave him, you can't step off him. He's so brave, he takes it right to the line, and he's not wanting to hit, don't get me wrong, but he's wanting to commit the defender so he can put a teammate into space.
And we did exactly the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, and he's good enough that if you don't, if you do slip off or if you don't stick on your man, he'll take the space and he'll run through. So I don't think there's any issues there. And to be fair, Joe Schmidt said that afterwards as well. It's a way he plays. He's a big guy for a 10 as well, Stuart, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he is, and he's a really good tackler, and he sort of doesn't.
He's aggressive.
Yeah, he doesn't particularly tackle low or anything like that, but you're right. It's he just sort of grabs you high and wrestles you, and he's much stronger than than he looks. And yeah, like as you said, it's very evident he does play very flat to the game line when he's trying to put boys through holes, and you, as a player you can't step off him, you have to just hit him, and some people think that's you're hitting them late, but you either commit to the tackle or you slip off and you get beat. So that's just the way it is.
Jamie mentioned Stuart Hogg going off. We spoke about this after the game, Stuart. One positive of that, he's a big player. He's a big player for any team that he plays in. But Blair Kinghorn coming on, now he would have been disappointed to lose his place, undoubtedly disappointed. He put in a brilliant performance, hat-trick, man of the match. But to bounce back, to refocus and to come on at a time he didn't expect and perform the way he did, when he came on he was probably Scotland's most attacking threat. You know him well, it shows a lot about his character.
Yeah, he's very relaxed, and but at the same time he's very, very focused on what he does, and he plays with an air of freedom, which is evident and when you watch him as well. Yeah, his first touch, he made a few tackle breaks, got through. He's a hugely exciting player. He's the kind of player that, similar to Hoggy in a way, that when teams kick to him and he starts running the ball back, you can hear the crowd getting behind him, and that makes that gets him excited to try and make a break or something like that. So for me as well, it's been great seeing him do so well at Edinburgh and now transfer that into the national team. He's been doing well at Edinburgh for a number of years now, and to see him doing so well for international rugby as well is great.
Very relaxed. That's an interesting way of describing him. He's horizontal.
Yeah.
And animations they're unbelievable, but
yeah.
you obviously feel that adds to his game a bit.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a trait of a lot of the younger guys coming through. They do seem really relaxed, and I think it does add to their game. I wouldn't say I'm relaxed, but I'm not as on edge as I used to be. But when I was younger, I was very on edge, and the nerves would really get to me, which is so unevident in these guys. They just take it all in their stride, and they just, instead of focusing, a lot of players when they go out, especially when I was younger, you go out and you worry about not messing up, and these guys seem to just want to go out and they get excited about what could go really well. They think about they could go out and score 3 tries and get man of the match, and not that thought ever crossed my mind, but that's just the way these guys think, and it's great.
It's funny, that's how that was my thought process as a young player. I was kind of opposite to you, and more like the young players, you just excited, you wanted this opportunity to prove what you could do. But as you got older, you got more and more, I suppose, expectation, pressure, and it my mindset kind of flipped the other way. I got kind of more.
I remember first time I was on the bench for Scotland back in 2012 in the Apex Hotel. We were sitting there and it was pre-game, and Hoggy, who was asking me, how you feeling, and I was like, I'm really nervous, and he was like, what are you nervous about? Like, you're not just excited? And I'm like, no, I'm really scared actually. Like, who knows how this is going to go? And that was one thing that always sticks with me, is that's just the way he thinks, and like these guys coming through, Blair, Finn's another one, who just get excited about what could go well rather than what might go wrong.
Do you think that's the environment that's created? I was the same. I mean, when I was first coming through, I was nervous. I mean, even towards the end of the career, there was still the nerves were still there. Now, I got past the fact of focusing on mistakes and focusing on what could go well. But I wonder whether that's the environment that's been created by Gregor and the rest of the guys. It's just an environment they come into and they think about the best case scenario and don't focus too much on the mistakes.
Yeah, no, that's really evident in the Scotland camp at the moment as well. It's all very, very positive, and we show a lot of best practice clips, a lot of things going well, and very few review clips in training or things as dropping balls or anything like that. It's all positive stuff.
Al, I want to take you back. You mentioned Hoggy, and I think we have to talk about his injury or potential when he picked up his injury. What was your take on his on Peter O'Mahony when Hoggy chipped it through?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, you could see instantly that half of the crowd and probably half of the Scotland team felt straight away that's a penalty. Now, unfortunately, he's come off second best with it as well. If he bounces back onto his feet, we're not talking about it today. To look back on it now, there's definite merit for it being that penalty. And it, hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully he's not picked up too severe an injury, but he is injured at the moment because of something that's a talking point. Penalty for you, Mossy?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think it was hard for Roman Platt to pick up because of the players between him and the incident, and it was certainly Rory Best was in between. I think it was one or two more, and he was looking right across the kind of the advantage line or the game line of where most of the players were. You can tell by the reaction of the crowd. He stand. It was it was a takeout, but I don't think it's any more than a penalty. I think Peter O'Mahony knew exactly what he was doing. He got in the way, but he didn't get in the way with a lot of force. Yep. But penalty, I think. Jamie?
Well, the biggest take for me is I've been calling him Peter O'Mahony for the past 2 years. So it's Peter O'Mahony, so that was my biggest take from that.
Are you a Police Academy fan going on?
Let's move on. Sam Johnson got his first try for Scotland. What's he like in camp? When we've chatted to him, Stuart, he's quite a quiet guy in the camp. Is he kind of a bit more open with you guys?
Yeah, no, he is very calm and quiet. I roomed with him for his first cap, and very, very relaxed, very, very chilled. He's fitted in really well. He was obviously around the camp a wee bit in the autumn before he picked up his injury, and then he's been in obviously the whole time in the Six Nations, training really well, and it's great to see him playing well as well.
You mentioned it in the commentary, but Finn Russell, his pass to Sam for that try was something special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's good. It was a really good, a real defensive read before that. Looking at, it's a risk. Any interception for me is a risk, but it's less of a risk if you make the right decision at the right time. And he could see, he scanned the attacking shape of Ireland. He knew the distance on the pass. He knew that the penalty or the sort of knock-on advantage is gone. So he kind of saw the ball in the air for a long time. So he got it. I thought his speed was good to get away. Keith Earls is a flyer. You have to be exceptionally quick to beat someone a defender who's got an angle on you. So Keith Earls is quick and he had that angle. So I think Finn knew the tackle was coming and he just stayed perfectly calm. You think your emotional state, you're breathing pretty heavily, you've run 50 yards, everybody's screaming at you, and it just looked so casual. What
was it you said? He looked like he was lying on his couch.
I did. Like, there was a slow motion we showed. It just looked like he was lying on the sofa and casually popped it up. Like I know. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, brilliant bit of skill. And again, Sam Johnson works really hard. You have to work hard to get in the end of these. We've seen quite a lot of tries in the Six Nations in the last 2 weeks, really, just supporting inside. We've seen it from scrum halves all year, and a lot of the kind of professional games. So that inside support channel is something that we probably picked up off rugby league initially. But yeah,
I remember at the time thinking I had a good support line. I thought I might get on the end of this, and then I watched it back on the TV and the wide view, and I wasn't even in the shot. So maybe it wasn't as close as I thought it was.
There's a tractor going past in the background at the moment. Everybody's wondering what the noise is. The line at the very end from Sam as well, though. I mean, Finn's off-foot was majestic. It was absolutely perfect. But he could have Sam goes left there, probably defence cover the offload. Sam runs towards the space, backs Finn's skill, and it's an easy finish for him. But yeah, I mean, Finn had another outstanding game.
Well, after the game, we heard from Captain Greig Laidlaw and Coach Gregor Townsend.
Frustrated after the game. We felt we made a few errors in the second half, whether that be launching from lineouts, and we just sort of released the pressure valve in a sense, and couldn't really build any pressure going into the second half because we just kept turning possession over. And then obviously we gave Ireland a set piece or something. They were able to exit their half, and then it's always difficult when you're trying to score from deeper. We were really confident at half time. We were really on top of them. We were causing them problems with our attack, and we just couldn't convert that into the second half, and that's what's cost us the game. I think we were in a good position at half time, but our performance in the second half through some of the errors cost us the game. We launched off a line out in the second half, and Sean O'Brien kind of reefed the ball, and I just felt Roman was right there, and he gave a knock on against us when it was clearly not a knock on, it was play on. So you can understand why when the way the game was going as it was going, when we never knocked the ball on, we get frustrated. We talk about test matches and turning on small points, and again that just allowed us to release the pressure valve, and yeah, so it was a big call in the match in my eyes. So clearly from a Scottish point of view, we're disappointed with the softness of a couple of the tries is quite clearly disappointing, because the effort was unbelievable today. The energy in our defence for large parts was outstanding, and I think you could see us coming off the line and putting Ireland under pressure, and we caused quite a lot of turnovers for them, and traditionally a team that don't turn over the ball. So there was a huge effort, but we need to make sure we have no soft moments.
Second half, the execution of our set piece plays to get us into our game and to put more pressure on Ireland just didn't happen. That's one more experience today. I really I'm so proud of the players today with the way they played, the effort they put in. A game of rugby is a lot of things. It's the defence battle that you have to do, the contact battle, the kicking game now is so important, and the pressure we put on Ireland's kicks and what we do with kick return ball. I thought we won those battles. Our contact work against a very good defence that will look to hold you up in the tackle, rip the ball or compete for the ball was outstanding today. Just that final piece, the execution of set piece, which has been really good, that fell off the jigsaw today, and that's my fault. I'm the attack coach, and we weren't able to get those 2 or 3 phases, either to get behind the defence in 2 or 3 phases or set up our attack shape, which was working well in the first half.
Some honesty there from Greig and Gregor around the game. Gregor in particular around the attacking of the game. What are your thoughts on that comment, Moss?
I think it's good for Gregor to put his hand up, but I think that the key thing they were talking about was the set piece attack, and the number of kind of times that they didn't allow themselves to get their attack in shape from their set piece attack. I thought some of it was skill error, more than strategy. But I'm not obviously right up to speed with exactly what they're trying to do. But it did look as if the 2 or 3 early set piece attacks we had in the second half after Ireland had a lot of territory in possession, we I think we knocked on one and penalised another time within 1 or 2 phases. So whether that was the kind of tactical element or the technical element of skill error, I'm not sure, but I think it's good with Gregor because he's taking responsibility, and it allows the players to focus on their job, and I say he's brave enough to take that responsibility.
Yeah, he's stepping up. The first thing that Gregor want the players to do is look at himself, and that's exactly what he's done. And he's gone out there and he's voiced that he could have done things better. Now, we saw both Chris and I saw the players after the game. Stuart, the disappointment, the frustration, as I talked about earlier on, that was etched all over their faces. You could see how much the players had wanted to win this game, as they will do every test match. But Gregor's probably trying to take that away from the players a little bit as well, and allow them to move on and put in better performances. But the honesty and the environment that he's building with comments like that, I think will pay dividends later in the tournament.
Yeah, the players look at themselves really hard. We've got a good, honest group, and we'll go, and everyone studies their own game and works hard on the mistakes they made and tries to get better. So we'll get better.
As you're a senior player in that group now, you're 28 years old.
Yeah,
you'll tell me that earlier. You look good for it. The responsibility for you to be looking after the younger lads as well. Is there some boys in that dressing room that they take it harder? We talked earlier on about the fact that some of them are so relaxed, but there's certain individuals that and I don't want you to name names, but that you've got to make sure that you're having those conversations afterwards.
Yeah, the ones that tend to that it hits harder, and that if they maybe make a few mistakes, there's certain players who'll let it affect them, and be down for the weekend about it, and they're the ones you sort of need just to speak to and make sure they stay positive about it all. You're right, it's just different players will handle it in a different way. I find as you get older as well, you tend to get over things a little bit quicker, because you make sure you come in and you work as hard as you possibly can during the week, and then the game goes and you've done all you can, and that doesn't take away from the disappointment of it. It's just I guess it just comes with a bit of experience and maturity.
I suppose that's a good thing about the tournament, the Six Nations. You've got another opportunity the next game coming up, so you can kind of park all those kind of negative thoughts or mistakes as such, and work towards the next game. Is that something you all kind of look at? Yeah,
100%. I mean, even after we beat Italy, that was gone straight away after that, and as soon as we review the Ireland game, that'll be gone as well. So then it's all eyes on Paris, which we're really excited about. So
as well as the disappointment of being in the dressing room after a losing game, you've also got a guy in Big Darcy who's got his first cap. So there has to be a little bit of a celebration, a recognition of that achievement as well.
Yeah, of course. Win, lose or draw, these are the things that you have to recognise, and it was great to see Darcy come on in a pretty attritional position at a fairly young age. He did really well, and he's a guy that's been doing well for Glasgow this year, and so once the disappointment of the match was away for the first few minutes of the change room, and we spoke about what we needed to speak about, it was straight on to things that are important to us in terms of our tradition and our culture, and so Gregor congratulated Darcy, and Greig Laidlaw presented him with his first cap tie and his cufflinks, which is a really strong tradition, and it's really important that we do it, and it's not just a thing that we do only if we win. It's a thing that's deeply embedded in our culture now, and it's win, lose or draw, we celebrate the things that need celebrated, like Darcy's first cap. We were all delighted to see him get on and do so well.
Darcy, another product from that Ayrshire region, along with Mark Bennett and Gordy Reid. Put myself in there as well. I was in Ayrshire Kestrel as well. Maybe not the same there.
Did you play age grade, Jimmy?
Ayrshire Kestrel, yeah.
Oh,
very proud.
What position?
Just wherever they needed me, to be honest.
Wow.
Just rock up.
An all-rounder.
One of the key talking points though from that game, the referee. There's a lot of talk around the referee, different elements of his game, perception of his game. What are our thoughts on Roman's performance at the weekend?
I thought it was okay. I think it's very difficult. I know it's sitting on the fence a little bit, but I thought actually it was okay. I thought his communication has been better. I don't know if he was getting a wee bit confused at times, but I thought to the players he could have been clearer in some of his messaging. Where I thought there was a worth discussion is his use of advantage law, but that's so subjective, because in the law there's nothing black and white. It's not written really. as to a definite end or start point. There's two ways that whether your advantage is over or not, tactical or territorial advantage, and certainly one in the second half where I think they had a penalty advantage and they broke down the left hand side, created a try scoring opportunity and then failed to accurately execute the pass, a 2-1. For me that's advantage over, but we came back to a penalty in halfway, so difficult because the advantage isn't black and white, but I thought there was a wee bit inconsistency there, but I didn't think Ali was terribly bad.
No, I thought it was good. I think when you're looking at referees, there's always 3 points of view. That if you're out there, Stuart, you're going to see things in a certain way. If you're watching the game live here at BT Murrayfield, then you're going to see certain things as well, and there's going to be debates going on afterwards, whether it's in the pub or wherever it is. The best place to assess a referee's performance is on the television and actually sit back and watch the game back, because you hear what they're talking, you hear what they're communicating with the players, and you see different angles as well. The advantage one for me, Mossy, for me it was almost more about the time rather than the outcome. So I thought he brought that back because it had happened quickly and they'd broken down the left reasonably quickly after he'd given the penalty. It
was a long advantage, I think.
But he hadn't called
over, which is
and
fine.
That seems to be there seems to be an element of time that the referees will then call advantage over, and that's what we've got to get away from. It's not a time thing, it's whether there's been a definite advantage gained from the infringement.
It says the laws it's either a tactical advantage or a territorial advantage, the two things. So if you get a tactical advantage in really quickly and then fail to make the pass, then you'll probably come back. But I believe Ireland had a territorial advantage at that point there, and it happens. I mean, it's so difficult. It's not just this game. I was in a meeting 2 or 3 years back with some Tier 1 coach, it was Steve Hansen, that said you actually should just play until the next stoppage. So advantage remains until either the ball's turned over or the next stoppage, and at that point the captain can choose. So if you're on your own line and you win a penalty and you play advantage, you get all the way out the field and I don't know, the opposition team commit a scrum offence, you've got the choice of either defending a scrum in their 5 metre line or taking your penalty on your own 5 metre line. It actually gives a definite end point to when advantage would be if you just play as is, but that's a big change.
What about the forward pass, Lindsey, for the Irish third try, Keith Earl's try? Now, momentum, he's travelling fast, he's thrown that ball, he's thrown it long. I got an email this morning about it, that's why I'm bringing it up as well.
Oh, thanks.
If the ball travels towards opposition dead ball area, it's a forward pass. Now, what referees are now looking at is whether the hand movement is back or forward. The ball definitely travelled forward, but the hand movement was probably backwards, was it?
Yeah, well, I think the direction of his hands went backwards. So, but I don't think the ref used the TMO very much at the weekend, and thought there was maybe some opportunities where he could have, especially in the ground anyway. Because I was at the game, but I felt that there wasn't much use of the TMO, and it might have benefited us more.
Chris, you're shaking your head at me. You clearly thought it wasn't forward.
I didn't think it was forward. No, I don't think so. As you say, the momentum was going to carry it forward, but unless it's really obvious, I much prefer the benefit doubt to go to the attacking side.
Agreed. I've got something to go back on my email now as well, so that's perfect.
Now, before we look at the other fixtures, just while we've got you here, Stuart, just want to talk about where you are now as a player and where you've been. Obviously, it's quite an interesting story for you when you look back at your career here at Scottish Rugby and beyond, and also what you do off the pitch as well. I know you're a keen pilot, and that's something that you really enjoy doing out with when you get the time. But you touched on it earlier on. You were on the bench in 2012 for, I think it was Scotland versus South Africa. Is that the game? And
yep.
You didn't get on, did you,
no.
in that game? But you're on the bench as a back row. Yep. And then 3 years later, you actually get your first Scotland cap. That whole period of 3 years, what's that like as a player to know that you're moving position and you have to wait 3 years to get your actual Scotland cap? How did you find that whole journey?
Yeah, it was looking back, it was quite tough at times. It's worked out really well now, which is great. But it was really hard at the time because I'd sort of established myself with Edinburgh as a back rower that could play at that level, and I'd managed to get on the bench for Scotland, and I was 22 at the time, so I was really excited about where my career could go. And if I'd done that by the time I was 21 or 22, I was confident my best years were still ahead of me as a back row. And it was hard. When the decision came to maybe move to hooker, it wasn't something I took lightly. But at the end of the day, I decided just to go for it because the support was going to be there for me. I would have had the whole backing of Scottish Rugby to do it, and I didn't want to look back and, you know, if I hadn't made it as a back row, I always wonder what if I just, you know, had the guts to go for it. So I just decided to went for it. It was hard because I was going from playing every week at back row for Edinburgh to then playing no rugby for about 6 months. And playing for Edinburgh means a lot to me, and it's my home club, and that was really hard to do, and just to watch Edinburgh do well and not be part of it was quite hard. But then, you know, I had the sort of long-term plan. I was working hard behind the scenes on my scrummage, and I think I had to hit like 100 scrums before they let me play. So it was all being managed properly, and then invited down to Bristol it was 2014. I went down there to sort of ply my trade a bit down there, and that was great. I look back at that as a big part of my development, because I was down there just as a hooker. I wasn't a converted back row, and no one really knew about me as a back rower. It was just I was there as a hooker, and I was expected to be able to scrum, and I was expected to be able to throw into the line out. So it really forced me to get myself in at the deep end, and I look back at that as a big sort of reason why I improved a lot.
Whose idea was it?
Moved to hooker?
Yeah.
Scott Johnson.
So yeah. To your point, the way your career's grown, you should mention as well, you're Scotland Day international in the back row. Over 50 caps for Edinburgh, Scotland Day international on the bench. It was going well, but with hindsight, I mean, the move has been brilliant for you. So, a tip of the hat to Scott Johnson.
Yeah, no, it was his idea, and he spoke to my agent about it in depth, and just they decided if they thought I would go for it. And then I went outside. My agent phoned me. I still remember he phoned me. He's like, "I've been speaking to Jono about you moving to hooker. What do you think?" And I was like, "Absolutely no chance." and he was like, "That was the first I'd heard of it." Yeah, and it sort of completely shook me, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then actually explained it to me, and sort of talked about the long-term plan, and it wasn't so much a negative move. A lot of back rowers move to hooker before they play pro rugby, because they're maybe not big or quick enough to do it to make it as a back rower. And I'd played 50 times for Edinburgh, and that excited me, because, you know, if I move now, what could I achieve? So that was a big part of trying to do it and do it well.
How long did it take before you, I don't know if you still do you think as a hooker on the field, or do you think as a back row player? Obviously set piece aside, but when you're in the game, it looks to me as he still, I mean, I remember playing alongside you for Edinburgh and being so explosive and so dynamic, and I still see that same player regardless of positional switch.
Yeah, and I guess I do still. My approach to the game out with set piece hasn't changed, and that was a big part of me sort of agreeing to do the move. I wasn't wanting to do it and just be someone who could throw and scrum. It was, you know, could I throw and scrum and still contribute around the pitch in terms of carrying and tackling, and that's what actually really appealed to me, was trying to do something a wee bit different. And it wasn't just to go and just be another hooker, it was to try and be a fourth back rower on the pitch, which I enjoy trying to be when I play.
Stuart, you obviously made the switch and it's been really successful for you. If you were to give any advice to maybe some of our younger listeners, or, you know, they're thinking about changing position, or they've been approached by one of their coaches, what kind of advice would you give them?
I guess one thing that kept me going through the hard times was always knowing why I was doing it, and the reason I was doing it was because I wanted to play for Scotland. I wanted to play for Scotland more than anything, and I knew that all the times of, you know, bottom face down in the mud, getting driven back in a scrum, you know, it wasn't particularly fun, but I knew why I was doing it. And I always remember taking a bag of balls down Inverleith Park in Edinburgh and just throwing balls against a tree, because I knew it's kind of what I wanted to do, and it was the one thing, the throwing, that was probably going to take the longest to do. And every time I couldn't really be bothered doing it, I remember thinking, right, what if I'm throwing for Scotland, like, to win a line out, 5 minutes to go, like, I'm going to be great if I came down and did a bit of throwing. And at the end of the day, it's, you remember why you're moving. Don't just move for the sake of it. Remember why you're moving, and realise that you have to work so hard, because the guys in front of me were, you know, I had Ross Ford in front of me, and he was someone that I've you know, worked alongside for the last sort of, well, my whole career really, but especially since the move to hooker, and he's helped me so much, and I've seen firsthand how hard he's worked throughout his whole career, and he was the guy that was ahead of me, and I just had to work so hard to even try and get alongside him. And yeah, so just to touch on Ross Ford as well, he's been a big part of my transition to hooker, and I don't think he ever said no to me asking if he can come and catch a few balls from me, or come and throw with me. And yeah,
kind of have a chat with him before you made the switch, or was it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Him you went and spoke to.
Yeah, I did. I remember it was we were driving back from a Scotland camp once, and he sort of, I think John had mentioned it to him what his thoughts were, and he said he thought it was a good idea, and that was kind of good enough for me. He's someone who'd done the switch as well. He switched from back row when he was younger, and he's Scotland's record cap holder, and that excited me, that it was something that could be done and could be done well. And to hear it from him that he thought I could do it, that made me pretty confident that I wanted to go for it.
It's clearly been a big positive for yourself. It's definitely been a big positive for Scotland. You talk about the way you play the game, your breakdown threat, your ability to bring players on with the link pass, and you can see the back row in you when you're playing hooker. I would be very surprised if it's not a big positive for the British Lions in the future as well, but I won't ask you to comment on that. The other thing it did for you is it allowed you a bit of time to grab a passion of yours, and you used the opportunity to get your pilot's licence.
Yeah, no, I don't really like to talk about my flying, but
I've got a question. Can we do a podcast in a flight?
Yeah, we could. That'd be fun. I wanted to fly long before I wanted to play professional rugby, and then when the opportunity to play pro rugby started, it was sort of a new dream of wanting to play for Scotland, and that sort of, rightly so, took over for a long time, and then I never really had the chance, or never thought I had the time to learn to fly. And then when I moved to hooker, I had sort of 6 months to a year where I was playing very little rugby, and it was Rona Shepherd at Red Sky said, well, did you not always want to learn to fly as well? And I was like, yeah, I did. And found a bit of time and realised I had weekends free now and the odd day off during the week, and got in touch with a flight instructor in Fife, and the rest is history. 3 years later, I managed to get my private pilot's licence, and I'm really proud of, and I enjoy doing that on my days off, and taking up some of the boys and seeing how much they enjoy it, and showing them sort of Edinburgh from the skies. So yeah, no, it's that helped me a lot on the move as well, sort of having something to go to when rugby was hard and I was struggling with throwing or scrummaging. I had that to go to, that I was in total control of whether it went well or not, and I love to get sinking my teeth into that.
So when you say you don't want to talk about your flying, that's because the boys give you a little bit of a hard time because you never stop talking about your flying. Would that be fair?
Yeah, they do. They always say, how do you know if a pilot's in the room? Well, he'll tell you. I do talk about it a lot, but I love it. It's a real passion.
Is there a history in your family or anything, or was it just a passion?
Nah,
where did that come from?
My uncle, he owns a flight school down in Yorkshire called the Gyrocopter Experience. So they fly gyrocopters, which are they're gyroplanes, sort of a cross between a helicopter and a plane, really. So he was always really passionate about it, and I remember going up with him in a helicopter when he was learning back when I was, I couldn't have been very old at all. I remember my dad getting one of these flight experience vouchers for his birthday, and we flew out of Edinburgh Airport, and yeah, I knew straight away it was something that I wanted to do. But there's no pilots in my immediate family, but yes, I was always that kid at the airport with his face pressed up against the glass. That was the best part of the holiday for me, was going to the airport. I still do that now on away trips, actually.
So I noticed on your Instagram you've got some videos that you've taken while you've been up there, and you've taken some teammates up. Who's your favourite teammate to take up, and why? And who's the least favourite to take up, and why?
One of the first people I took up was Hamish Watson. That was really fun because he brought about 15 bags of sweets. I asked, can you maybe bring some nibbles? I've not had much lunch, and he turned up with 15 bags of Haribo.
That worked out well for him?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. It was great, and it meant we didn't get hungry in there. That was for sure. And it's good because I've got the GoPro facing me the whole time, so I can't always see their expressions when I'm concentrating, so then I watch the footage back and you can see how much they enjoy it or how much they don't enjoy it. Damien Hoyland was another one who's a wee bit scared of flying, but he was desperate to come up with me and sort of face his fear. And on takeoff, I didn't think anything of it, and then I look back and he's got his eyes shut and he's like staring, or there was one point he was staring down. He looks like he's just trying not to be sick. I enjoy it. I love taking people like that up because it's part of sharing my passion with them, and it's something that's it's pretty unique. It's
a passion now you're looking to try and make a career out of post rugby.
Yes, I would love to work in the airlines. I initially didn't want to be a commercial pilot because the idea of being a commercial airline pilot to me was being away from home a lot. And with rugby, you tend to spend a lot of time in hotels and away, and that sort of next part of my life didn't really want to be doing that. But I've been speaking to a few of the holiday airlines and. Jet to Edinburgh. I've done a bit of work experience there over the last sort of year or so, and the holiday airlines appeal to me because it's like an extended 9 to 5. You can be there and back in a day, and it's still that commercial feeling, which would be pretty exciting. Flying the sort of Boeing 737. So yeah, maybe when rugby finishes, I'll end up there.
Be good if we're sitting on a plane one day and it says, "This is your captain speaking." Will it be Captain Rambo or will it be Captain Stuart McInally?
I think I said Captain Rambo, everyone get off. But yeah, no, that's the dream.
And the other dream's coffee.
Coffee, yeah, no, that's something that's sort of appeared fairly recently, sort of in the last sort of year or so. It's Damien Hoyland, Edinburgh, and myself. We found ourselves doing a course at Brew Lab, just randomly actually, and started off as just trying to do the latte art and trying to have a bit of fun with it. But then we both left being pretty enthusiastic about it. And over the last sort of year, we've spent a bit of time with a coffee roaster in Stockbridge called Mr. Ian's, and he's been really good to us in terms of letting us just go in and learn all about it. And yeah, now we've got our own coffee blend called Ruck & Co, which we spend a bit of time on and just trying to learn a bit more about it. Loads of the boys at the club have machines now, so we supply all the beans to them, and at the Scotland team as well, we've got a nice machine at the hotel which Ruck & Co deliver the beans to as well, which is great. And yeah, at the moment it's just a bit of a hobby, you know. We just sort of give the beans out to the boys, but if it could ever become something more, that'd be great. We're hoping to start our website soon, so that we can sell to other people, but at the moment we're just sort of keeping it fairly in-house.
Donkey Weir tells me he's not happy with the name. He says he's told you to change it.
He was. Yeah. Did he tell you what he wanted to call it?
Yeah. Share with us.
Full of beans. Terrible name. He saw it on the side of a bag for life. I don't know. Is it Morrison's or something? They've got a bag for life and it just says full of beans on the side. And he was like, full of beans. That's what you should call it.
He thinks it's a game changer for you if you change it to that.
He says this, but then he's at me. He's asking me to send loads of beans down to Worcester so he can be our Worcester supplier. But, yeah.
One of that element to your game as well, though, which I didn't realise, Stuart, was you played sevens as well. A short career at sevens, but was it Dubai you played in sevens?
Yeah, I've done 5 tournaments. I think I did Dubai, George, South Africa, Hong Kong, London, Edinburgh, and the Commie Games 2010, Delhi.
Yeah, I forgot.
There you go.
How was your experience playing sevens?
Didn't play a lot. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it when you're younger. When I was younger, it was very much a development thing. So you come out of the academy and that sort of step between academy and pro rugby, you'd spend a bit of time in the sevens. I did a lot of training with them and didn't really expect to play, but then there was a few injuries, I think, and yeah, I went out. I didn't play a hell of a lot. In 2010 in Delhi, I've got a funny memory of. It wasn't funny at the time, but we were playing it. It's like our big match to get into the 5th, 6th playoff, I think, and we were playing against Kenya, and I was on the bench. I wasn't starting, but then I went on and we were winning. I think we were winning 12-5 or something with the last play of the game, and we had the ball. And I try and dummy left. Now I'll try and do what sevens people are doing. One over the top, and Collins and Gira for Kenya just intercepted and went the length. And suddenly it was 12-all.
Did you not catch him?
No, I didn't want to waste the energy. I thought I would just wait for the kickoff. But I remember looking over at Stevie Gemmell, who was a coach, and I think if he could have taken me off, he would have, but he'd used all his subs, so he had to keep me on. And then luckily we went into the sort of extra time, and Lee Jones scored an absolute scorcher of a try. But yeah, I didn't play a single minute after that. But it was good. I did enjoy my time playing sevens.
Yeah, we had Hamish Watson on a few weeks ago, and he also mentioned the sevens, and we asked him the question, did he score any tries? Did you score any tries for Scotland Sevens?
Yes, yeah, I did. I scored one against the Chinese Taipei, which I don't even think they play anymore, but it was in Hong Kong, and one against Portugal. So yeah, no, I think I've got 2 tries.
2 tries to Hamish's one. Well done. Stuart, I know you need to nip off in about 10 minutes time, but what we did this morning on Instagram is we put up a post and we asked our fans to get in touch with any questions they wanted to ask you, and we got a couple of them in. Just going to ask them for you just now. So one came in from Rory Britton. He wants to know, what has been your favourite moment in a Scotland jersey?
I think there's probably 2. One of them was beating England last year, lifting the Calcutta Cup. That's something that was really special, and to do at home was really special. The other one for me is the New Zealand game last autumn, where it was the big event for Doddy as well, and Doddy presented the match ball, and I remember being really, really nervous for that game. Playing the number 1 ranked team in the world, and not really sure how I was going to get on or how we were going to get on. But then when Doddy came on with his family, it just sort of put a lot of things in perspective, and it really actually helped calm me down and realise it's a game of rugby, and we're going to be fine, but there's some things that are bigger than rugby, and I loved the whole occasion. And I still remember when we lost that game by I don't know how many points, but the ball went out at the end. We just lost at Murrayfield, and the whole stadium was chanting Scotland, and it was a moment I'll never forget.
Sam Downey wants to know, Stuart, who is the most talented player in the team?
I'd say Finn Russell. I think at the moment, as a forward, you spend a lot of time running lines off 10, and he's someone that can just put the ball exactly where you want it, and 99 times out of 100. It's what he does consistently that impresses me, and his kicking and his other sides of his games are there, and what he can do. And obviously he saw his interception at the weekend, but for me his basics of his catch and pass is excellent, and being a forward that you can run lines off him, the ball's going to be on a plate every time. It's a pleasure to play alongside.
William Patterson would like to know, who was your biggest inspiration growing up?
I remember watching Ali Hogg a lot when I was growing up. He was someone who, when I first started getting into rugby, he was playing exceptionally well for Scotland, and he was a back rower who played with a lot of flair and a lot of he was very explosive, and used to make a lot of breaks, and I used to love watching him play alongside Jason White as well, who was very destructive. And I got to know him a couple of years back as part of Red Sky. So if rugby inspiration wise, I'd definitely say those two.
Oh, you had a massive smile on your face there when he said Ali Hogg. You must have good memories of Ali.
He was with us at the weekend. He was at Scotland Business Club. He was in great form. He's recently retired, but we were the Stirling bus for years when both of us played for Edinburgh. Chris was captain actually, so we knew each other very well.
He also had a big smile on his face when Stuart said he was explosive.
I did.
Good old Huggy.
It's
a wizard.
I always remember, I don't know, were you playing the game when he was it in France, or when he was going down the touchline and he must have clipped like a blade of the white paint or something, and he was called out.
And that would have won the game. It was brilliant, Hoggy, because no one could tackle him, whether it was running explosively or whether it was just going as slow. No, he never ever was tackled by the first defender.
Is it Marcus DeRollo as well? Never got up to a sprint, but always would find a gap and get through it. And I mean, you 48 caps in a row or something, Hoggy.
Young as well.
The original Hoggy.
And just the final question, it's came in from your teammate Ryan Wilson, believe it or not. Now, I don't know if this...
Can I guess what the question is?
Yeah, you guess the question.
Is he asking if you're allowed to throw anything out of airplanes?
He said, have you ever thrown a tangerine out of the window of your plane?
He's asked me that numerous times, and the answer's always been the same, and it's no. It's one thing you're not allowed to do is throw any object from a plane. That's why I'm not allowed to mount any of my GoPros outside the aircraft as well, because if that falls off and it's classed as you throwing something from the plane, I'd probably lose my licence. But yeah, no, he's frequently asking me that question. He
also sent that question about 4 times and changed tangerine to Satsuma. And so Ryan Wilson got in touch.
Stuart, it's been brilliant having you in. Great to get a bit of insight what's been happening in the camp. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, but thank you very much for spending so much time, and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
No problem. Thanks very much, Al. Cheers.
Top man, Rambo.
How good was that? That was a really interesting chat with Stuart, wasn't it?
So good, Like, you forget the stress and the pressure that these guys are under when they're playing, when they're training, and then to give up his time, maybe 1 or 2 days off almost across your Six Nations period of 8 weeks, and to give up his time when he'll still have recovery to do, he'll still have everything else to go through. It's really good, and his content, his insight, brilliant. Such a top bloke, isn't he?
It's great to hear how much he's got going away from the game as well, though. It's such a key. It's high pressured and a lot of difficult times, but then for him to be able to switch off, we heard about it from Hamish the week before as well, but yeah, what a top guy he is.
Let's just have a quick look at the other fixtures in the Guinness Six Nations from the weekend. Italy and Wales, and also England and France. What did you guys make of those 2 fixtures?
I'm excited that Scotland have got France up next after France's showing yesterday. I think they've got quite a bit to work on defensively.
England good or France dreadful?
I think a bit of both.
I think a bit of both as well.
England are very good. France, I think they're in I say a hole, but I don't know how they get out of it in many ways, because I don't think they're fit enough. I don't think they individually be fit enough, but I don't think collectively the teams can play an intensity that is required for Six Nations rugby, because their ball and play time in their club fixtures is really quite low. It's low compared to the other domestic fixtures, and then if you compare that to international time, they don't play a huge amount. They've got such big squads with the professional sides that more often than not a lot of the guys only play 2 out of 3 games, or even 1 every 2 games. A lot of them don't play away from home, so if your ball and play time's so low and you're not playing as many fixtures, they won't train at the intensity that other nations train at. It's really difficult in a tournament to change that.
The only danger, your point about it's good that Scotland have them next, the only danger is that they kind of rip up the game plan and just let some, because the individuals in that team are phenomenal.
Not so much in that team, and some of them, but I think they could have a bigger group of better individuals. I think there's individuals in that team yesterday that would have in years gone by scared oppositions, but I think they've still got an incredible amount of talent.
Yeah.
But I think it could be more talented and certainly sharper.
Italy, Wales, just again a case of Italy too little too late.
I think credit to Wales for winning that with 10 changes. I actually thought Italy might come out on top in that when I saw the teams, just because the level of experience needed to play away from home in any game, but especially in Rome. I think the crucial thing for Wales was that they got ahead. I think they were up to 12-0, 4 penalties that got them ahead. If Wales, with that inexperience, had to chase the game, it's a very difficult thing to do in Rome. But yeah, I think it's 19 losses in a row for Italy as well. So they're certainly not playing particularly well. Their women are second in the championship table, and under 20s they're second equal, the Italians, with France, Wales and England, Ireland on top in under 20s. So there are developments there. The professional teams, especially Benetton, are improving. So the question asked of Conor O'Shea is, are we seeing improvements? I think, and he comes back and says there's progression. There is, but it's not getting to the top end just yet. No,
gamble from Gatland to make 10 changes, to your point, Chris, about the experience that was needed, but now they've got to win a gamble that's paid off, especially in World Cup year. That's invaluable experience. It will not be the same set of 15 players or 23 players that go to a World Cup and play in those games with short turnarounds. They'll need to have those quick rotations of players coming in and doing their job.
It's brave to do it in Rome, wasn't it?
It was, but it's paid off. He didn't get a bonus point, which they might be disappointed out, but with the 10 changes, I think they should be happy to get that one.
Let's move back to home soil now. There was a couple of fixtures at home for the women's, the Club 15 and the under 20s. It finished Scotland 5 and Ireland 22. Let's hear from Scotland women's head coach Shade Munro.
Not good enough, to be honest. The learnings we got from the game against Italy, we really didn't put into place at all. It just didn't start well, and it just would never seem to get out of that. Had periods when we defended well, but seen it too often before that. Defend well, 10 phases, 11 phases, and then just 12 phases to score. I've got to stop hoping the opposition are not going to score. We need to be stopping them scoring. It's a mindset, and it's a team mindset. It's not individuals. I mean, you can't be someone like Lana, for example, lays it on the line every time she plays. So there's good performances, but it's the team. As a team, they've got to learn. They need to be a bit more relentless in what they do. They need to take the game by the scruff of the neck rather than just hoping that it's going to go okay. Didn't execute what we talked about, really. We talked about it at half time. Second half, didn't put it into practice. Was it because of what Ireland were doing? Ireland played okay, but they weren't any great. They did okay, deserved to win, but that wasn't the reason. So it's a kind of harsh lesson. I quite often come in and I'm quite positive, and I'm developing, and it's this and it's that, and it's about the team getting better. But actually, they kind of didn't do themselves justice. They let themselves down a wee bit. And I hate it when they let themselves down, because they're much better than that. They are much better than that performance there. So we need to find what it is that makes them perform a bit better.
Shade being very honest there in his post-match analysis of the game. You were at the game at Scotstoun. Tough game.
Yeah, definitely. I spoke to some of the players after the game, and it was just a big sense of disappointment and feeling they just hadn't performed to their potential. I did think there were some improvements from the previous week against Italy, but it's how they kind of string the phases together and do it for the full 80, and not just the first 40 minutes. Shade touched on it. Ireland were okay. I think 1 or 2 of their tries could have been stopped. But to go back to, there was some really good individual performances. Lana Skeldon again tackled everything that came her way. She carried well when she had the opportunity, but again didn't have a huge amount of possession, which made it difficult to set a platform to attack from.
The wind was strong as well, wasn't it? I mean, you can hear the frustration in Shade's voice there, and quite rightly so, because the team are improving, but that was an opportunity really to put an Irish side under a lot of pressure and get the rewards from the hard work that's gone in the weeks before. But it really was such a strong wind straight up and down. Scotland played with it in the first half and just didn't capitalise enough, did them?
Yeah, conditions weren't ideal going into the game. We probably could have kicked more with the wind when we had it. But yeah, when you don't have the ball, you're a bit reluctant to kick it away as soon as you do get it.
Quite similar to Italy the week before them. I went back and had a good look at that game, because we spoke about territory again, maybe holding, or the lack of territory holding back, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity to gain territory because there wasn't a lot of possession against Italy as well, and quite similar, you say, against Ireland.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at set piece, scrum was generally quite solid, but as soon as we went to line out, it didn't function as well as it could have, which meant we struggled to retain our own ball. So
75 minutes into that game, Ireland had 62% of the possession. They did 200 carries in comparison to Scotland's 76. 1,279 metres made in comparison to 410, and Ireland had only had to make 129 tackles in comparison to 304. You can't win a game of rugby if you don't control the ball. And I know we've talked about the fact that the second half needs to be better. I think Ireland laid the foundations in that first half. Scotland would have been up at 150, 160 tackles in comparison to probably 60 or 70. That's incredibly tiring for those guys to go out and try and back that up in the second half.
Yeah, I think there was some really good one-on-one tackling, which you could see, but then I think we struggled when we didn't have a player coming in to hunt, which meant they were back on their feet ready to tackle again and defend and fill the field, but nobody was in trying to slow the ball down, and Ireland did that to Scotland. They slowed the ball down.
But I've got to credit the Irish for the speed to the breakdown. Ailsa Hughes at 9 for Ireland. It was absolutely outstanding.
She was everywhere, she was exciting, she was electric.
She was a threat. She was a threat at almost every single breakdown, whereas Scotland, when they got the ball, because it didn't have it so much, were almost trying to force things at times as well. Chloe Rowley, again, every time she got the ball was great going forward, but it's only 3 or 4 times. It needs to be more than that. We need to work out how we can control the ball a bit better.
2 other fixtures just to mention was the under-20s fixture with Ireland down at Gala Shields, 24-5 defeat to Ireland. Mossy, I think you went down to that game.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on that?
Similar in many ways to what Lindsey's saying about the conditions. The wind was a factor. More so, not so much. Well, it did have an effect on territory, but it was more the effect it had on the errors. A lot of dropped catches, a lot of dropped passes. It wasn't really a flow to certainly Scotland's attack because the conditions were quite poor. But in saying that, I thought Ireland's attack was really sharp. They didn't really play like their senior side. A lot of nations will mirror what you do with the national side to the under-20s. A number of reasons for that, but one's preparation obviously, and then looking at the kind of progression upwards. But Italy were actually like a wide attack side, caused a lot of difficulty in the midfield in their back three. They really kept playing, and it was their attacking ability that gained them the territory rather than their kicking game. So far more creative than we see from their national side at times. But yeah, again, the Ashman had a really good opportunity, did really well to get over and just failed to ground the ball in the last ditch tackle just been half time, and that would have been made it a bit better. We went into half time 10-0 down. Started the second half a wee bit better, likewise against Italy the week before. But yeah, the wind didn't allow us to control the game, and Ireland were pretty sharp.
2 tough results for both the women and the under-20s in the first 2 rounds. I wonder whether this gap week is needed as a good opportunity to gather things back and have a look at how they can go on and have a better tournament.
I mean, I think definitely for the women it's a chance for them to regroup, maybe treat a couple of injuries that they might have picked up, but we all know that going and playing in France is quite difficult. It's a challenge. France love being at home. So yeah, I think for both teams it'll be a challenge, but I'm sure one that they'll both prepare fully for.
Yeah, playing away from home's obviously tough, but one thing from the men's Six Nations that I picked up the weekend as well, just to a different stat, was that 4 of the 6 games in the Open 2 weekends were won away from home. So there's hope definitely, more so than used to be. It was very unusual to win on the road, but it's 4 out of the 6 so far have been won away from home, so our 20s and women's can get strength from that and go to France ready to face a challenge.
Best luck to the 20s and the women after the fallow week. The one last game was the Club 15 over in Dublin. It was a thriller, I'm told, a 19-19 draw, and after the game we heard from Pete McCallum.
Oh, it means so much to me. It's a programme that I've always aspired to, being probably that person who wasn't going to make it as a pro, for something to be just below that for the guys in the BT Premiership and obviously the National Leagues as well, to be able to go and compete for. So I remember back when I got first picked and I was delighted with that, and then Phil asked me to captain a couple of years ago, which again was a massive privilege, and just to be able to captain your country, it's certainly something. And I think Rob, he summed up pretty well in the week. He said, it shouldn't be easy to play for your country, and I think that was, that really hit the nail on the head. And there's boys in the room there that are just, this is what they're going to peak at, and some people will go on. A lot of people have. Jamie Batty, he was in a couple of years ago, and now he's playing for Scotland. So it just shows it's different for different people, but it's a great programme to have and be involved in. Just frustrating to end in a draw. Started the game so well, with Robbie Nelson scoring within seconds pretty much, which was good and starting how we wanted, but then after that we didn't exit how we planned on, and from there we kind of got stuck in our own half and maybe went into our shells a little bit. But then coming out in the second half, I think especially in the last sort of 15 minutes or so, we played how we'd have liked to have played both legs, to be honest. And the game was a lot more open, a lot more enjoyable to play in, faster, and how it should have been, and that showed that that's how we should have been playing the full game, because we scored 2 quick tries, and it's just frustrating that it was too late, and frustrating there wasn't enough time on the clock to go and get that winner.
Pete McCallum there, captain of Scotland Club 15. Playing away from home is always difficult, but a 19-19 draw, you can take a lot of positives from that result, can't you, Mossy?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the first game, and I think we said last week on the podcast that it just looks as if they hadn't had a huge amount of time together. They didn't. I think they had 3 sessions, but the ability to learn and improve, and undoubtedly a harder game week 2 away from home against a strong side was good to see that the character that was there to get off to a good start, score early, and then lose the lead after half time quite late in the game, and then to get that draw, not only for Pete McCallum to score the try, but for Gregor Hunter to kick the 2. So draw away from home, and it's the pinnacle, as Pete says there, pinnacle of the guys who play in the club fixtures to get the opportunity to represent the country. Yeah,
credit to them. It's very difficult to throw a team together that quickly, and you could see that they've clearly taken a huge amount from the first game and having a few more sessions, so well done them.
It's competition time, and we're giving away a signed Stuart McInally podcast mug and a pair of Heineken Champions Cup tickets for Edinburgh's quarter-final at BT Murrayfield against Munster on Saturday the 30th of March. To be in with a chance of winning, head over to our Facebook page and answer our simple question. Terms and conditions are on our website. Just some news now from around the business. Don't know if you saw about Holly Davidson. She was the referee in the women's sevens last week in Sydney, and obviously she's got her first appointment coming up in the women's Six Nations. Lindsey, I think she's going to be refereeing the Wales match on the final Saturday.
Yeah, I think she was also touch judge for the England-France game yesterday as well. So she's doing really well. Obviously, I know her from when she played a little bit, but I think with injury she had to give up on the playing side, but yeah, she's doing fantastic, and I think she's a really good kind of role model for other people who want to get into the game but maybe not the playing side of it.
Some other news: Ryan Wilson unfortunately picked up a knock at the weekend. He's going to be ruled out for the rest of the Six Nations. Other injuries to Hoggy and Hugh. You played with Ryan at Glasgow. A big loss.
It takes a lot to keep him down as well. You could see he was in a reasonable amount of pain, and yeah, tough for Glasgow, but tough for Scotland as well. Better news on Hugh and Stuart. Hopefully they're going to stay with the Scotland squad, which would suggest that hopefully it's not going to be too long a layoff. But with all these things, we're only 2 days away, so it'll take a while for the medics to assess them.
And just before we finish up, both pro teams are back in action this weekend. What do you expect from both Edinburgh and Glasgow?
Well, Edinburgh at home to Dragons on Friday night, and the last outing was the game in South Africa, wasn't it? So I think we'll see a big reaction to that, and obviously being at home, I still think Edinburgh will have a strong side, have a quality side. They'll be certainly up for it. They'll be refreshed after a couple of weeks off, and the Dragons have picked up the performance a little bit, but I'm thinking Edinburgh will be too strong. And
but
Glasgow, Cardiff
away, yeah. What will be interesting to see is the team that's put out. There'll be a few players released back from Gregor's squad. Or Richard Cock will Dave Rennie throw these guys in, or will he go with the squad that's been training regularly?
And I think that's a massive point in terms of Scottish selection, or Scottish 15 selection for the next game. I genuinely think these guys playing this weekend will all be, believing that they've got a chance to come in, whether it's injuries or whether it's form. At crucial selections for both Edinburgh and Glasgow that will have a knock-on effect on a team that takes the field in Paris.
Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. We'll be back next week with more exclusive content here on the official Scottish Rugby podcast.